Hi everyone, I'm Aki. Today I'll share how to build muscle naturally, meaning without using any drugs. Before I started training, I weighed only 57 kilo, despite being 176 centimeters tall. However, after about 8 years of consistent training, I now weigh 79 kilo and have achieved this condition. As a result, I've successfully gained over 20 kilo. But it wasn't a smooth journey to get this physique. I experienced many failures and took detours due to misconceptions. In this video, I'll share how I managed to build muscle, including the mistakes I made. By listening to my story, you can avoid detours and build muscle in the most efficient way possible, so please watch until the end. Of course, I'm 100% natural and I've never used drugs, so those looking to build muscle naturally can confidently take my advice. Let's get started. First, consistency. Ultimately, the most important thing is consistency. No matter how high quality your nutrition, sleep or training is, it's almost meaningless if it only lasts for 3 days. To build muscle, you need to think long term, not short term. This isn't just about muscle building, it's true for any goal in life. Understand that it takes time to achieve something valuable. When I say consistency is crucial, some people respond, I want to continue, but I can't stay motivated. However, you don't need motivation to continue. I don't have any special motivation for weight training either. Honestly, going to the gym is a hassle. Taking a shower after training is a hassle. Washing the clothes I use for training is a hassle. And even drinking protein powder is a hassle. But training is clearly better for my physical and mental health than not training. And as a result, my life improves. So I just go to the gym and train every day, regardless of how I feel. There's no motivation involved. Don't make excuses, just go to the gym every day and lift those dumbbells. Second, high intensity training and high volume. If you want to continue building muscle naturally without using drugs, high intensity training and high volume are unavoidable. When you look up training information on the internet, you will find many people saying about an hour of training is just right, and doing more than that is inefficient because it leads to muscle breakdown. However, this is completely false, so please ignore it. Of course, it's much better than doing nothing, and beginners will certainly develop muscle quickly without an hour of training. But for intermediate and advanced trainers, sticking to just an hour of training will definitely slow down growth, and your body's development will stagnate. Of course, if you provide appropriate stimulation to your muscles, muscle hypertrophy will occur even without an hour of training. But understand that is not the shortest and fastest way to build muscle. I also experienced a plateau in muscle growth until 2 years ago. I wanted to improve the situation, so after researching, I eventually decided to follow the mindset of top athletes in natural bodybuilding organizations in Japan. Originally, I followed the mindset of physique competitors and bodybuilders in IFBB contests. But then I realized, wait, I'm natural. If I'm natural, it's appropriate to look up to those who are big and completely natural without using drugs. Top natural bodybuilders spend about 90 minutes to 4 hours per training session, and they set high standards for both intensity and volume. So, I created a training program that lasted about 2 hours and executed it. I literally felt my body changing rapidly. For those reasons, if you want to build muscle in the shortest and fastest way, for intensity, aim to increase the number of reps or weight in each training session compared to the previous one. In other words, you need to train with a higher intensity than in your last session. For volume, I recommend spending more than 90 minutes on each body part, rather than just an hour per session. However, training time is just a guideline. What's important is how much you fatigue the target muscle, so please understand that. For example, the time required for leg training and arm training is not the same. In leg training, you use whole body exercises and handle high weights, so the fatigue per set is greater than in arm training, and you automatically need longer intervals. In contrast, you don't use as much weight for arms, and those are no whole body exercises. Therefore, the fatigue per set is smaller than for legs, so you can take shorter intervals, and the training time is shorter. Think of the 90-minute plus training I recommend as a guideline for thoroughly stimulating one muscle group. However, I understand that not everyone can allocate 90 minutes or more training. And I don't always spend that much time in every training session either. What I wanna say is that a high volume of training clearly accelerates muscle hypertrophy. I wanna clarify that continuity is the most important thing. As long as you provide appropriate stimulation to your muscle hypertrophy will occur gradually even with an hour of training. But if you wanna break through a muscle hypertrophy plateau or build muscle in the shortest and fastest way, I recommend implementing high volume training even temporarily. Third, nutrition. Nutrition is an indispensable element for muscle hypertrophy. No matter how hard you train, muscle hypertrophy won't occur without proper nutrition. First and foremost, you need to be in a caloric surplus to induce muscle hypertrophy. You need to consume more calories than you burn in a day. On the other hand, it's very inefficient to try to build muscle in a caloric deficit. While it's possible for beginners or those with a novice body type to gradually build muscle in a caloric deficit, it becomes increasingly difficult as you advance. So understand that a caloric surplus is the foundation for muscle hypertrophy. When talking about a caloric surplus, it's not just about calories. You also need to consider the balance of the three macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. If you only consume fats, you might end up gaining mostly fat. Now let's talk about the balance of nutrients, but I'll explain it roughly based on my experience, as going into too much detail might make it harder to understand. First, aim to consume twice your body weight in grams of protein, and as much as possible get your protein from real food sources like fish, meat, and eggs rather than protein powder. As for fats, I personally don't pay much attention to them. That's because during the bulking phase, I get enough quality fats from whole eggs, meat, and fish that I eat to meet my protein needs. So personally, I don't feel the need to consciously consume fats separately from foods like avocados or nuts. Lastly, carbohydrates. Once you've made your protein and fat needs, control your carbohydrate intake to achieve a caloric surplus. In short, if you want to build muscle, a caloric surplus is the foundation. So first, aim for a caloric surplus and then balance your macronutrients. Fourth, rest. For muscle hypertrophy, rest, or more specifically at least 8 hours of sleep, is a crucial element. This is because muscles stimulated by training temporarily experience muscle tissue breakdown, but with appropriate rest, including sleep and nutrition, the damaged muscle tissue gradually recovers, resulting in muscle hypertrophy. When damaged muscle tissue recovers, it becomes stronger than before, a process known as supercompensation. Since muscles recover gradually, let the trained muscles rest until they fully recover to maximize muscle hypertrophy efficiency. The recovery time varies depending on the body part and individual differences, but it's generally said to be 48 to 72 hours. In my case, sometimes I have muscle soreness for about a week after a hard leg workout. So a simple way to judge whether you've recovered is to check if you have any muscle soreness. I often get asked, is it okay to train the muscle group that's still sore? I don't recommend that because the quality of your training will decrease if you have muscle soreness. Instead of training while you are sore, it's more efficient for muscle hypertrophy to wait until you are fully recovered and then train with full effort. Fifth, move the weight with the target muscle as much as possible. Like many beginners, I used to misunderstand the weight training was just about lifting and lowering weights. However, if you want to promote efficient muscle hypertrophy, you need to shift your mindset from just lifting and lowering weights to moving the weight with the target muscle as much as possible. For example, the bench press is a famous exercise for training the chest. When performing the bench press, try to control the weight up and down using mainly the chest muscles. In reality, the triceps and front part of shoulders are also involved, but try to minimize their involvement and focus on using the chest to move the weight. Mastering this technique will significantly speed up muscle hypertrophy. However, people who have just started training might not understand the sensation of moving muscles, so I think this is something you will gradually learn with experience. As an additional note, moving the weight with only the target muscle means you will be using fewer muscles, so the weight you can handle tends to decrease. But if your goal is muscle hypertrophy, hypertrophy. That's not a problem at all. Even if the weight use decreases, it's much more important effective for muscle hypertrophy to move the weight with only the target muscle. However, I'm not saying to use light weights at all, so please don't misunderstand this point. There are individual differences in the way you can control, but in any case, train with the heaviest weight that you can control with only the target muscle. Knowing whether you're moving the weight with the target muscle as much as possible and having this awareness can make a huge difference in muscle hypertrophy efficiency. So please keep this in mind. 6. Train only one body part in a single training session. For beginners, training the whole body or multiple body parts in one session will likely lead to muscle hypertrophy. However, as you become an intermediate or advanced trainer, this becomes more difficult, and bodybuilders typically train only one body part in a single session. This is because if you train multiple body parts in one session, your physical and mental energy will decrease, and the training intensity for the second and subsequent body parts will drop. For example, imagine doing 7 exercises for legs, then 7 exercises for back, and then 7 exercises for chest. It's easy to imagine that the intensity will noticeably decrease for the later body parts. If you reduce the number of exercises for each body part while trying to train the whole body in one session, you might not even provide the minimum stimulation needed for muscle hypertrophy. For these reasons, I believe that training multiple body parts in one session is less efficient for muscle hypertrophy as you become more advanced. If you want to move from beginner to intermediate or advanced, I recommend limiting yourself to training only one body part per session and thoroughly stimulating that part. 7th, high-frequency training. For natural muscle hypertrophy, high-frequency training is a very important element. I go to the gym almost every day, around 6-7 times a week. However, if you're going to train every day, dividing your training parts and getting enough sleep every day are essential. So please understand this. First, if you don't divide your training parts and stimulate all the muscles in your body every day, you will have to train in a state where the muscle fibers damaged in the previous day's training haven't recovered, or while you still have muscle soreness. This automatically reduces the intensity of your training, making it inefficient for muscle hypertrophy. Therefore, if you're going to train at the high frequency, you will need to divide your training parts. Next, about sleep. If you're going to train every day, getting enough sleep is also essential. If you don't get enough sleep, you won't recover enough physical strength, and your training intensity will decrease. Therefore, if you're going to train at the high frequency, make sure to get enough sleep, specifically at least 8 hours. 8th, stimulate the limit with appropriate weighting every set. When it comes to the number of reps and sets in training, 3 sets with a weight that you can barely do 10 reps is often recommended. There's nothing wrong with this, and I think it's rational. However, there's one thing you need to be careful about here. That's the concept of stimulating to the limit in every set. A common misconception among beginners is that they finish the set even if they have some energy left after completing the target 10 reps. So, what should you do? Even if you have some energy left after completing the target 10 reps, don't worry about a predetermined number of reps and continue doing reps until you reach your limit. Do this for every set, in other words, for all sets. When I give this advice, I often hear, but if I give my all and do 12 reps in the first set due to accumulated fatigue, I will only be able to do 9 reps in the second set and 8 reps in the third set, which doesn't fit the generally recommended concept of 10 reps for 3 sets. My answer to this is that it's not a problem at all. That's a natural occurrence. As you use your muscles more, fatigue accumulates, so as you progress through sets and exercises, your strength and focus will decrease. Also, the 10 reps for 3 sets is just a guideline, not the rule that you must follow to achieve muscle hypertrophy. The most important thing in training is to stimulate to the limit with the appropriate weighting every set. So be careful not to lose sight of this essence. Those are the basic principles required of building muscle naturally and without any drugs. The information I shared in this video is what I wished I knew when I was a beginner in training. If I had understood these training basics and practiced them, I think I would have reached my current physique twice as fast. So I'm confident that if you practice the information from this video, you can build muscle in the shortest and fastest way possible. However, I'm still far from my ideal body, so I'll continue to work hard. Let's work hard together. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. Bye.